And we're off and running.
Who's going to get it?
Welcome to the NFL offseason.
Oh, wow.
Starring the Dallas Cowboys. They are back. And
No
the
pun
Dallas
intended.
Cowboys,
No pun intended.
Dallas
Starring.
Cowboys are back in their rightful place, not actually in a deep run in the playoffs or in a Super Bowl, but in the news in the offseason when games aren't being played. Because according to Tyler Dunne of Go Long, Mike McCarthy is getting fed up with Jerry Jones and the influence there that he's got in Dallas. He said, quote, he's doing the best he can. An ex-Cowboys personnel man recently said, some of the people I've talked to have said that he's getting fed up with it a little bit. He also mentioned that the report noted the current players are more concerned about Jerry Jones and their own head coach. And as indicated by high-ranking Cowboys lieutenants over the notion that, quote, ownership can undermine the head coach at any moment. They also pointed out that the fact that he didn't get a one-year extension and he's basically a lame duck coach puts him in a really bad spot. Regardless, Mike McCarthy going into what could be his final year as Cowboys head coach, and at this point, based on this reporting, is a little bit tired of how things shake up there in Dallas.
I'm going to play both sides of this one, because I can understand his frustration. I think a lot of head coaches aren't accustomed to an owner that's got a weekly radio show that can basically air out anyone at any time, and it doesn't seem like he's got much of a filter. So that can be frustrating. But you also know what you're signing up for. I mean, it's not like Jerry Jones has really changed. So when Mike McCarthy took time off after getting fired from Green Bay and took this opportunity, I mean, they had their sleepover and everything for the interview process. He had to literally know what he was getting in bed with, right?
Dang.
And after a rough first year, and granted, I think you give him, benefit of the doubt because of COVID and everything else. It's 12-5, 12-5, 12-5. The regular season's been fine. It's more been how things have ended in the playoffs, and that's really what has stuck with everyone in the back of their mind is just disastrous endings on the field. And that has nothing to do with Jerry Jones and what he says during his radio show during the season or what he does or doesn't do when it comes to the offseason. That has to do with Mike McCarthy and how this team has executed once they've gotten the playoffs. And this past year, not even showing up against his former team, the Green Bay Packers, the disastrous ending to their season back in 2022 versus the San Francisco 49ers, with a what the heck was that play at the end of it? I mean, there's countless things. The 2-minute drive, too, where they thought they'd have enough time. I mean, there's so many things you could point to over the last 3 years. That has nothing to do with Jerry Jones. So as much as this report may be true, and I think we can all understand that, it still doesn't change the fact that Mike McCarthy and this Dallas Cowboys teams, when it's mattered the most in the postseason, have struggled to figure out a way of getting to a Super Bowl, or at least getting to an NFC Championship game.
Do we know who put the report out? Where did the report originate from?
Tyler Dunne.
And what was his source?
Personnel.
People and
members.
personnel.
Yeah.
Members.
In the Cowboys
Probably not related to the
organization.
Jones family.
Probably not related to the Jones family. I know I get made fun of for watching fantasy shows. I just watched the latest
show. I don't make fun of you about that.
I appreciate it. I know you don't. We're on the same page. We're good with one another.
I love hearing more about them, honestly.
Well, here's the
like
thing.
Game
I just
of
watched.
Warlords or
I just
whatever it
watched
is?
the Game of Thrones is the original, but the new one is a House of Dragons, right? And in watching it, you start to realize that you fight the battles of running a kingdom internally. It's not really one on the battlefield of where you have the catapults and, the spears and the cannons and all that stuff. It's actually one behind closed doors, right? And what information, is disseminated from there and resonates from there is usually a sophisticated, maybe considered sophisticated, maybe not so much, but seemingly sophisticated plan or idea as to how you want to manage the expectations and deliver the messaging and the branding of what this monarchy represents to the common man, to everybody that's out there. Depending on where the message comes from, it dictates how you view the people who are making the decisions.
Interesting.
Right? And this is one of those scenarios where you got to believe if it's Jerry Jones's side, Jerry Jones it's always been stated the overpronounced approach to what he does is to win a Super Bowl and him be the reason why they won the Super Bowl. The reason why the reports is he fell out with Jimmy Johnson because they couldn't come to a healthy relationship in terms of who represented what, and then boom, you're trying to figure out what you're going to do, post Jimmy Johnson, which you had Barry Switzer and all those guys. You've won Super Bowls with other coaches, but he wants to win this Super Bowl for him and his family in the worst way. Mike McCarthy is on his second head coaching job, and we all know that to get a second head coaching job in the NFL after leaving one, you're basically what? There's never been a coach that's been a head coach three times, correct? Is that an accurate stat? I think it's an accurate
Lovie
stat.
Smith.
Three times?
Yeah, it was 3 times.
Yeah. How'd that work out? So in the end, I think what's happening is if it's coming from Mike McCarthy's side, this is self-preservation. And in fact, I might say if it's coming from the Jones side, it might be self-preservation as well. You're trying to find a way to move on or set up what it's going to be if this team underperforms. Right? You just put it out there, like it gets picked up, okay, it's going to be discussed. If I'm Mike McCarthy, I'm putting it out there because I'm letting y'all know before we go into this season that something ain't right. And that something isn't right because this guy continues to be a person that is undermining what it is that I'm trying to do, create, and build here. So really what I'm trying to tell y'all is this isn't my fault as a head coach.
If you date a stripper, don't complain 2 years later when she comes home smelling like somebody else's cologne. Is what it is. You got in bed with that, literally, and then you want to complain about it after the fact. This is the Cowboys.
I thought that was after the paternity test.
Well, I'm just saying, this is the Cowboys.
Dang.
Dalton Schultz talked about it when he said that it's just night and day difference between the Cowboys and the Texans. Where in the Cowboys, you'll be working out and people are taking tours and they're looking at you through the glass, like you're at a zoo. That's what the Cowboys do. That's what Jerry Jones is. So the idea that I'm getting fed up because he's got too much influence. To Brady's point, what other owner in the NFL or in sports has 2 radio hits a week all year long? Jerry Jones does. You know who's got the other radio hits?
Who?
His son, Stephen Jones.
Dang.
It's just this is what they do. So Mike McCarthy I'm just getting fed up with it. Okay, if he's fed up with it and the Cowboys have a decent year, and they offer him a contract extension after the year.
Do you take it? Hell yeah, he's taking it.
Yes, you would take it.
Hell yeah. Well, I didn't mean all of those things. Yeah. Somebody said that. It wasn't me. This is self-preservation. That's why you use a different source to put your information out there, right?
Let's also acknowledge, though, other teams within their division and the way they do business. So, for example, the Philadelphia Eagles. They've been able to re-sign, retain, make all these moves in the offseason, whether it was Smith or even Melad or whoever else you want to talk about on the roster. It doesn't need to get to the point where it becomes a talking point. As not only does Mike McCarthy go into his final year, but so does Dak Prescott, and CeeDee Lamb wants a new contract, and Micah Parsons is 2 years out, but they've already set the precedent of redoing those contracts or extending those contracts because of Zeke Elliott in the past. So now a guy like Micah Parsons, who's done everything you could ask for him to do, is knocking at the door saying, I understand that you don't want to do this for every player, but I'm that guy. I'm that player. I've done exactly what Zeke has done, but on the defensive side of the ball for you, so pay me now. And it does seem like, for whatever reason, as that price tag continually goes up for every one of those guys, and that's one of the reasons why Dak Prescott's contract is as ironclad as it is, and he has so much leverage, but it's because they waited. And it's because they, for whatever reason, don't want to do business the way they should with guys that they've drafted, guys that they've developed, guys that they've hit on. I mean, if I'm in the personnel department, there's got to be some frustration to a degree, right? Will McClay does a tremendous job there. Because as much as you want to acknowledge the fact that they are hitting on a bunch of these guys, they don't necessarily extend them when they should. They should extend them earlier in their career so they can work with the salary cap, work some of those numbers, not give up so much leverage to someone like Dak Prescott, who was, again, going into a final year of the deal the last time around and now has a no trade tag, has no franchise tag. I mean, all these different, clauses, things they put in their contract, they're able to do because Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, they sit on their hands and they wait. And they allow the market to continue to go up and up and up. I mean, it's only going up for quarterbacks. It's only going up for receivers. And so that drama continues. And as much as we want to say, well, yeah, I guess that keeps them in the news, it keeps them as part of the story, I would think if you're Mike McCarthy, yeah, you're tired of the story being about everything other than football and everything other than what's on the field. And look, maybe that, negates what I said earlier, but maybe it's also distracted from how the seasons have ended a little bit because there's always something going on in Dallas in the offseason.
Do you think somebody in Dallas was like, when the Emmitt Smith holdout happened, they're like, "Phew, all right, that got a little ugly, but at least we learned our lesson. That'll never happen again."
You know what? This
all these years later, everybody's like, "No, I'll just wait and get a contract."
I blame all of this on Green Bay. All right, you Green Bay Packers out there, you know what you've done? You've created people that just constantly want attention and drama. That's all this is. This is a product of a lead to lap. I know you might not want to hear this, but the drama is from everybody who comes from Green Bay. You got Mike McCarthy.
You took a shot at Green Bay, and you took a shot up there at the Jets.
Yes, I did. And then here's the thing, right? You got these drama kings, drama guys, and
they're Kangs, man.
Kangs.
Kangs.
And they want this attention during the offseason. And for what? Why does Aaron Rodgers want this attention? Why does a headline like this come out? Why does this happen? Why ask why you say? Because they're Green Bay people. And I don't understand why that is. Maybe it's because they don't have a whole lot going on. Maybe it's because it's about playing the hits. I want the attention on me. Where does this headline come from? Why is this a headline today? Today. And you know what? Who did it last week? Who had the headlines last week? Are Mike McCarthy, are you and Aaron Rodgers competing for swag and clout in the media, like for coverage? Who's doing it?
Wait a second.
Who's doing it?
Didn't you almost?
I want to know.
Didn't you almost sign with Green Bay?
Yes.
Is this why? Because it was too much.
I walked into Big Pickett's room, and he was in there sitting in his boxer shorts with like 5 orders of room service, and I was like, yeah, I'm not coming here. I'm not coming here.
Why? There's nothing going on.
If this is the excitement, this is the height of my excitement coming to Green Bay, I can't come here.
I got to be honest with you. I've got family who was up in Green Bay. They loved it. They miss it.
Wonderful.
Talk about it all the time.
Well, go back.
They do.
What's holding you back? I just want to know where the drama's coming from. And both teams are going to lose next year.
Well, the drama was still present in Dallas before Mike McCarthy got there.
Very true.
And the difference you can make the case is the fact that now it's not whether or not they're a playoff team, it's whether or not how's the season going to end. Like, is it going to end hoisting up a Lombardi?
What week does he get fired?
Or is it going to end in a disastrous fashion like we've seen the last 3
What
years?
week does Mike McCarthy get fired?
What an optimistic outlook
Is that
on the
draft? Is that on the draft? Is that on the draft
let me
boards
see.
right now?
Let me go to DraftKings.
Boards. Is that on DraftKings?
Let me search when Mike McCarthy will be fired. All right. Well, let me ask you this.
I bet you there's a line.
If they win a playoff game,
that's a win.
Not enough.
Not enough. If they go to the conference championship,
that's a
is
win.
He back?
That's a win. I think he's back.
He's gone. He's out of there.
It doesn't help that Bill Belichick's out there.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm surprised they didn't do it this year. He's gone. He's out of there.
He's literally
Dan Quinn jumped ship quick. Once you saw Dan Quinn jump ship, now you got Micah Parsons. Don't even seem like he's really banging with the defensive coordinator all like that. CeeDee Lamb wants his contract. He's upset. Dak Prescott, he's at the end of his contract. Now you got the head coach. He's coming out. He seems to be disgruntled if the reports are accurate. There's an issue. There's issues in Dallas.
Let's go through their schedule real quick.
Yep.
Because you're already putting an over under on when he gets fired. So I've got to ask you. And I'm gonna give you 3 options.
Okay.
Okay.
Here we go.
The first option is, and this is their first 6 opponents.
Okay.
At Cleveland.
Oh.
Versus New Orleans at home. Versus Baltimore.
Yep.
And then back-to-back weeks on the road, the Giants, and then the Steelers.
Done after the Giants. Done after the Giants.
I don't know. I mean, they could be 2-2, 3-1. I mean, I don't know about that.
Done after the Giants.
So anyway, I'll get to the rest of the schedule.
Okay, come on.
So then they have, after Detroit, they have a bye week 7, which if you're going to make a change.
Bye week.
That's usually when it would happen. You'd say after week 6, they make the change, a couple weeks to get in order. And then they have to go on the road back-to-back weeks. But The more interesting storyline is you had a coach on your staff that was potentially looked at as a replacement in Dan Quinn.
Yep.
They don't play Washington until week 12 in Washington, a little before Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the tough part is, let's say, for example, you go to Washington and you lose and you get stomped by the guy that you had in your house running your defense, one of the top defenses, and you could have hired. You decide to allow him not to be the case. Let him go to Washington. But then you've got a short week where you've got to play the Giants on Thanksgiving. So it feels like it'd be hard to do, and that's hard on your team if you're going to do it at that point. And then the next time they play Washington is until the end of the season. So in a way, the schedule almost has set up to allow Mike McCarthy and Dallas to avoid that pink elephant in the room, having to face a Dan Quinn coach team that's in their division. They got to play twice, and was a guy that I guess reportedly they all loved.
I just wonder if that pink elephant smells like cologne, because it's going to be done after the first Giants game.
Jeez.
Out of there. Now let's go to the white gorilla in the room.
What?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
know. I don't know. There's a pink elephant smelling like cologne. It's kind of funny.
Why is it got to be white?
Why I got to be pink?
Damn. It is the Herd here on Fox Sports Radio.
Is that offending someone?
LaVar Arrington.
The
But
pink
you never
elephant?
know.
I mean, I don't know if it's offending. I don't know. Could be provocative.
You just never know.